So apparently, I stirred up a hornet's nest and then lit it on fire at Gamepod over the weekend. Oh, okay. So the date today is the 12th of August. Why did I have to what's today? I'm looking at it right on the. Anyway. Okay. So the 10th of August was the Battle of Cervich, something like that. The 10th of August, 2019 was the Evike event day thing, whatever, at Gamepod, which is in Antioch, California, which is kind of in like the Bay Area, so it's about an hour-ish, like northeast of San Francisco. For those not in the California area, I'm telling you right now, Antioch is not NorCal. It's not. It's Bay Area. Significant difference. That is not a NorCal field. Throwing that out there. So, moving on. I had never been to a Gamepod before, so I wanted to check it out because it has this all this hype behind it. It's very I don't know if prestigious is. It's very popular. It's a very well known field in California. So when I first started playing airsoft and stuff, and I'd go down to SoCal, they'd be like, "Oh, you're a NorCal player, so you must come from Gamepod." Like, first of all, that's Bay Area. Second of all, no. So I'd never been there before. I hadn't seen a lot of very complimenting or positive things online about it. So, okay, I read their rules. Before I go to a field, I try to read their rules several times over just to kind of. Usually, if I can read a field's rules, it gives me a feel for kind of how the field is overall, depending on how they use their verbiage. Seem pretty standard. They cap their field at they cap the BB weight at .25s, which I'll go know why that was a bad idea, or why I perceive it to be a bad idea. They have different levels of FPS for different MEDs, which is not uncommon for some fields. So okay, whatever. I'll play a 10-foot MED. I've got a DSG that shoots around 330, 340. Cool. So I'll be using a DSG that's around 340 FPS and shooting. I use 2.5s. I was using 2.5s because I'm on a tracer. Let's give it a shot. Me and my buddies went. Some of the DOA guys went. Airsoft Hemi went. All that. So let's go from the start to the end of the day. Start of the day, we all met up at my buddy Dev's place, who's a DOA Joker. And he lives in kind of the West Sac-ish area, and we convoyed with our car and with Thomas, one of the guys that plays at my field also. Big crew of us. I'm not gonna lie, I was going realizing that there was a chance I would get kicked out because of how I play is usually associated with, you're a speed softer. Like, no, I'm just a gamer. But I was wearing my dye mask with a GoPro, Speed QB long sleeve shirt. I think it's the Speed QB Gauntlet is what it's called. It's the black long sleeve shirt with Speed QB down there. You've seen me. I've posted a few things. My Speed QB belt, my DSG, which is just slick. I don't have optics on it. I don't have anything. My tracer unit. I had a run cam. What's the run cam? The airsoft one on there. I borrowed that from Adam from Tacos. Thank you, Adam. And I had California flag denim shorts on. So I was dressing to be like, oh, we gotta watch him. Boo. I wanted to see if they would pay more attention to me because of the way I looked, because dye mask and blah blah blah. So it took us an extra hour to get there because we were taking the route along the river, which is like the 160-ish route going through Isleton towards Rio Vista. But on that route, the only way to get to the other side of the river is to take the ferry. When we were there, both the ferries were closed, so we kind of did one of these numbers around the little island, and it took us an extra hour. But I will say that the back road drive, if you kind of run the river from West Sac into the Bay Area into Antioch, gorgeous. It's a beautiful drive because you run in the river. It's such a pretty drive. So I didn't really care because I was like, oh, that's pretty. Oh, it's going to be another hour because we have to do a U-turn? Well, whatever, it's pretty outside, so it's a nice day. So we get to the field, get to Antioch, to Gamepod. Antioch is not a good part of California. It's pretty hood. So we go, Gamepod is kind of behind the Antioch Police Department. It's in a warehouse area, like next to it, it looks like an old busted out warehouse you would see like in a movie with busted windows and all this stuff. I was kind of like, is this part of the field? That looks kind of fun to play in. Parking was kind of, I want to say it was an issue, but it was kind of unorganized. So they have like a gated parking lot kind of thing. We didn't know what we were doing, so we were just like, park here. So we got changed. We kind of walked inside, got checked in and all that. And the staging area was just chaos. I will say that I thought there would have been, because it was a special event, I was expecting that place to be packed. Granted, it was my first time being there, so I don't know what packed looks like for that event versus like an average Saturday, Sunday. I don't have that comparative data. I don't know what that looks like. But I expected that if a field backed by EVIC, whatever, is having an event that is also sponsored, co-promoted, or whatever, but that also has the official EVIC backing to it, I expect that beast is going to sell out to capacity with hundreds of players. So it's also possible that they could have capped it to prevent it from being so packed to keep the crowds down. I don't know. That's just some theories that I have. Bought the tickets online through the EVIC website, pulled up, got checked in, nothing too crazy. If you've been to the EVIC store before, like all the little cringy kids and their kits, just like buying patches and stuff, it's the same. It's the same thing. Just all the little cringy multicam kids that are just kind of cosplayers, don't really know what they're doing on the field, no concept of technique. They're just new. There's new casual kids. They're kids. So I rolled up with my guys who are competitive players, who are technique-based, who are efficiency, who embrace more the athletic side versus kind of the casual side. Because that's where I am. I don't know if it's because I'm running with a gun. Like, I can't just be like, bro, chill. Like, no. So there's that. I also semi-locked my rifle because I wanted to see if by playing how I play at Ministry, just the more aggressive running around style, suppressing fire, pre-firing, all that, embracing the real gamer side of airsoft, I wanted to see if I would get like talked to or kicked. I thought I was going to get kicked out because of how I look and how I play. So there's that. Yeah. So the field layout was, you know what? How about we do this? I had a terrible time. I'm just going to front that up right now and swipe all this out. Boop. I'm going to read the review, the Facebook review. It's 3:47 in the afternoon on 12 August 2019. I'm going to read the review, the Facebook review I posted. Gamepod Combat Zone. I'm going to read the review and then we're going to kind of talk about it. It's a great thing about rants is I don't know what I'm doing. Ahem. So here it is right up. Is that gonna? Okay. Terrible field. Already, we're starting off strong. Worst I've ever been to. I've played in Northern California and Southern California fields and out-of-state fields. The ref staff was rude, used profanity at younger players, and would simply yell generic terms like, generic corrections at them like, hey, that's the second time, without actually informing them of what the second time was even for. They didn't do a very good job of being specific for on-the-spot corrections. A ref should be there to educate, not see a violation as a chance to exercise your perceived power over youth. I also noticed some refs were treating smaller-sized players or children with much more disrespect than larger-sized players or adults. Again, I'm going to read this, then we're going to run play-by-play. When they escorted a cheater off, which I did appreciate, they used 3 refs to escort him to the door. Why would you allow 3 refs to leave the field during a match to ensure a cheater left? That's a significant number of refs off the field, leaving others to cheat and cause more problems. Aren't your cameras a better idea to ensure he leaves? They were also highly inconsistent with enforcement. I was told I was being too aggressive with my shooting, but when another player standing in front of a ref is being more egregious than I and is told nothing, why should I trust the ref staff has my safety in mind? The amount of infractions certain players were allowed to get away with was astounding. Maybe if I spent a bunch of money on Evike multicam, I could get the VIP treatment too. I heard and saw a player in the Chrono area tell a ref that even though his rifle was red tagged, it was still planned on point blanking kids, and then simply walked away without that staff member doing anything to demonstrate to me or the other players that that comment was going to be taken seriously. The building layout made minimal sense. I would often find myself in buildings and rooms that were dead end, lead to nowhere, or have no other windows or doors, and made the whole thing seem really slapped together. They simply took up space. The upstairs viewing area was nice, but smelled of urine, and considering that there were only 2 public restrooms in front, this isn't surprising. The staging area was a mess, and was constantly left unsupervised for long periods of time. Players were regularly test firing and had their protective gear off. Humidity didn't bother me. It's also very crammed for the high volume of players that it had. I had higher expectations for a field carrying the EVIC name. I can't wait to open my own field one day and get the EVIC to endorse it so I can immediately stop caring about the players' safety and environment. Womp womp. If you look at most videos for Gamepod, there's a few. One of the consistent things you will find is that there is a male. Can I say black? I'm just gonna say black. There's a black guy. African American gentleman. I don't think he's from Africa, but he sounded like he's from the Bay Area. There's a black dude, maybe about my age. I didn't get a close look at his face, but he had a pretty dude was built. I'll give him that. Good for him. Clearly, he has a strong work ethic because his body was very chiseled. Dude had a nice butt. I'm gonna throw that out there. Like, yo, you ain't skipping that leg day, my man. So there's that. But this dude, he's got there's something inside his soul that he needs help. He's very rude. He's very overly aggressive with kids. I didn't catch his name. I didn't want to interact with him just because I don't want to be around that kind of person, personally or professionally. I dealt with cops that were a lot like that, and those cops had a lot of professional problems and were always fighting something or were getting written up just because they were not good humans. Now, is it possible that when this ref goes to work, like there's a switch on his head or like something flips and he acts a certain way that is contrary to how he acts around his family or in his home life? Yeah, that's possible. I'll give you that. Maybe he's just got like an on and off switch for his ref mode, and he's just more aggressive because he has to deal with stupid kids the whole time, and that has influenced how he deals with the general public. That's fair. I'll admit even I'm guilty of that sometimes. So, but I've never sworn it. I can't, if I've ever sworn at a kid at ministry, I want to see that video footage. I want that video footage to be public because I want someone to call me out on my bull spit. Bull spit. Yeah, you like that? This Chrono wasn't that bad. Like they have a cool little range. They have a nice little Chrono setup. I'll name them. I name all my people that do everything. So I was with Rufus. God bless Rufus. Rufus is a bit of a clown. He's got a cheeky sense of humor. So he gets his gun chronoed, his rifle, and it gets red tagged. Now, the MED, the minimum engagement at the field, is dependent upon what your FPS does. So I was shooting under 350, so I got green tagged, and I only had to abide by a 10-foot FPS, a 10-foot MED. Excuse me. If you get red tagged, which is 350 or higher, 350 to 400, you can do 25 foot. I think it's a 25 foot MED. And I think if you have like a sniper that shoots like above 400, you get some other tag and it's like a 100 foot MED or something like that. Anyway, Rufus gets red tagged. And the guy says, hey, you're red tagged, just going to have to be a 25 foot MED. He just kind of looks at him and goes, whatever, I'm still just going to point blank kids. And he walks off. And then that guy looks at us like, did he just say that? And I'm looking at this guy like, yo, are you going to respond to that? Like, granted, Rufus is my boy. If you don't know that, that's my friend. You don't know that I drove that guy to Dev's house. If you're a ref and a player says something like that, you need to address it because there's players watching this happen. And when you let that go, you lose credibility. That's how that works. So as Rufus's friend, I was like, he's being cheeky, whatever. As a ref, as someone that is professionally involved in a field, who's a head ref, who trains refs, who does a special event coordination, me being who I am and what I do at the field, I see that and go, you need to act on that. And if you don't, it's already we're at strike one for the day. Didn't pull him aside, didn't do anything. Just, could he have been like, he's probably just joke. Could he have brushed it off, said, he's probably joking, or whatever. It's whatever. Could he have brushed it off and just assumed he was joking? Maybe, but he wasn't. He was given a 25-foot MED. He never, ever, ever. Rufus never took those MEDs to heart. He doesn't. He's doing it, I saw him do it in front of other refs. Why do you chrono and specifically tag guns in a specific way using a coloring scheme if you don't enforce it? What? So there's that. The ref that I spoke about earlier, we were in the staging area. Now, in the Gamepod staging area, where you reload your magazines and do all that stuff, you have to have your eye pro on. I don't know if they do like the kids have to wear full face mask or what, but you had to have eye pro on in the staging area where you reload your stuff. Why? I don't know. So that was like one of the main things that refs were like, hey, you need to put your eye pro on or whatever. Okay, kids mess up. So this dude I was talking about earlier, let's give him a nickname. I'm going to call him, let's call him Ref Dude. Ref Dude to the rescue. So Ref Dude sticks his arm out, like knife hands a guy. It's more like this, and he's just standing there. He's maybe 8 to 10 feet away from this, about I'd say like a car length or so away from this kid, and he's just doing, hey, that's the second time. And then he just walks away from the kid. Like, the second time of what? Why would you make, as a ref, an on-the-spot correction to a player out loud for everyone to hear and see and learn from, and be vague and ambiguous about it and not explain yourself and not use that as a teaching moment and not educate and just go, hey, you're wrong, bye, and then walk away? What are you doing? How did you land this job as a ref? How have you not been fired for this? The most unprofessional conduct I have ever seen a ref take part in. It's madness. This could be me being way too analytical and me just pulling things out of thin air and me just taking a shot in the dark. 3 friends. Blake, Charles, Tom. They're not big kids. They are all 5'7" to 5'9", if they're maybe. I don't think any of them weigh more than 160. So they're like smaller, skinnier dudes. I'm about 6 foot, 205 if I'm eating ice cream for breakfast. Dev is probably about as tall as I am. He's probably about, I'd give him 215, 2 1/4, somewhere in there. He's bigger than me. Dev is bigger than I am. And Rufus is he's probably about 6'1", skinnier, like a lanky kid. They gave Blake, Charles, and Thomas all ended up getting Blake did not. Charles got kicked for overshooting, which he should have. I'll go into that. And they ran him out. Like, they chased him down like a wild animal. I'll get into that. And they yelled at Tom for violating his first MED infraction with 1 round. But because that guy he shot was complaining so much, they got into his face. I ran my trigger pretty hard all day. That's just the style I play in. And they didn't tell me I can't do that. And it's not anywhere in your rules that says I can't run my trigger like that. Dev did it, and they just asked him to slow down. They're like, hey, can you just be like a little less aggressive with the trigger? But they didn't like get in his face and start yelling at him and being aggressive. They didn't do that to me. Blake, Charles, and Tom start kind of playing like edgy boys, and these refs bowed up on them. So I believe that the reason why Dev and I were treated differently than Blake, Charles, and Thomas for similar or same level of infractions was because those refs knew that they could not physically impose their will on us because we were just as big, if not bigger than them. They weren't these, skinny, slender, shorter, little white boys. These, the refs were, gym heads. They were a little bit bigger. So their ego kicked in. That's an opinion that I have based on one encounter and personal observations. That opinion is not backed by any other data other than my first-person account of one single time at that field. So there's that. It's an opinion. Let's keep going. I stayed in for 2 sets, 2 games, basically. They were about 30, 40 minutes long. It was hard to judge time, so I'd say they felt about 20 to 40 minutes per match. I did 2 of them, and I was done. They used weight, so it was a super dark field. It was super dark in there, and they had fog everywhere. Look at their Instagram. This is going to be a long one. Strap in, kids. Where? The fog in there was thick. That fog was thicker than a Snicker. And it was dumb dark in there. Darkness with the fog, like even guys running TLRs, guys running lights, it was like trying to use your headlights in the fog. It just wasn't doing anything. It just like, bleh. The light was just sort of dispersed by the fog. So it was darn near impossible to see kind of maybe more than about 20 yards in front of you, depending on what parts of the field you were on. Some parts were darker than others, but overall it was just, you couldn't see anything. Even guys running lights. It just wasn't that great. So even being, super ninja tactical, you're just catching BBs from everywhere because you can't see anything. Dude, I got overshot several times as I was walking away. Could it have been a player from another team was shooting at one of my teammates? That teammate then moved, and then I took those BBs from the back. Maybe, but I took 2 separate groups of about 4 to 5 shots as I was walking away. So there's that. So I don't want to necessarily say I was overshot because I cannot confirm what the intent of the trigger puller was, but it felt like I was being overshot as I was walking away. And considering that other players were talking about similar things happening to them, I would say it's pretty safe to say that I was probably overshot a few times at that field. I did like the way that they marked teams. I thought that was interesting. It was tough, but it was interesting. They used orange tape. So it was basically orange tape versus notes. So like how some places will use like streamers, they put orange tape around my arm, both arms I was a fan of, and then a big echelon or a big line across my back. The tape line on my back came off after the first match because I was schvetting. So there's that. I did find the way that they were marking teams very interesting. Charles, on the last game, Charles intentionally overshot a guy so he could get it on film, basically. And just is an overall, and I'll do videos on overshooting and stuff like that, as an overall way to vent his frustration on the day's events, he just said, you know what, I'm just going to overshoot this guy, get kicked out, and we're going to go to Costco and eat pizza. Do I condone this? No. I told him this is a bad idea. Told him we should probably not do that, especially being with me, because I don't play that style. I don't do that stuff. Did he do it anyway? Yeah, he's a grown man. Sort of. He's a grown hobbit. That's why they were picking on him. He's an adult. If you're going to do that stuff, all right, go for it. The last game I found very interesting. It was me and Rufus were sitting out, and we were up in the second story viewing area, which reeked of piss. I don't know if it was just the air conditioning. I don't know if it was something coming from the store. I don't know what it was, but when you went upstairs, it smelled like hobos peeing on a sidewalk. If you've ever been downtown on a weekend, you know what the smell is that I'm talking about. It's very distinct. Do I think someone peed upstairs? No, I don't, because they have cameras up there, and I would think they would act as soon as someone pulls their wang bang out. Do I think that it just smelled horrible? Yeah, but if I had to equate it to something everyone knows about, instead of just going, oh, it smelled bad. What does it smell like? Oh, burnt cookies. Wait, what? No, it smelled like piss. Moving on. Last game, a couple of my buddies were like, dude, we're just going to do some edgy stuff. Like, all right, I mean, I'll watch. They were in front of refs the whole time. They were poking the bears of refs, basically. They were trying to poke the refs, be like, hey, you going to stop me? Are you going to stop me from doing this? And they didn't. So feathering, the general definition of feathering is when you're pulling your trigger, like, when guys want to do this. They kind of do this number and go, ee. They do the thumb reinforcement here, kind of like that. They did get talked to once for doing that, and then they kept doing it, and then in front of the same ref, who never warned them again after that. They were doing it in front of the ref. They were feathering the trigger. They were breaking a rule in front of the ref that just made a correction about that, who did nothing. He did nothing. Okay, that's all I need to know. They just kept breaking the same rules over and over again just to mess with the refs, just to see how they would react. And they didn't react. Cool. If you don't put out a fire, it just gets bigger and bigger. So Charles had a problem with a guy. A lot of people had problems with this same player. So he found him in a room, took the corner, ran in there. He didn't mag dump him. So a mag dump tells me that you expend an entire mid cap worth of ammunition into a player. I think he bursted him. I think he just bursted him. Like, he just gave him a burst and he clearly overshot him. Clearly it was wrong. I'm not going to debate that. What he did was wrong. It's the stuff that I tell kids that they shouldn't do in the first place. But he did it. So move on. So they're yelling at him like, hey, get off the field. So he did. As he was walking off the field, he emptied his magazine into the wall. Like he was kind of like writing his name, like he was autographing the wall before he left. And what was interesting is that's what pissed the refs off, and then two of them chased after him. Now, it is possible that they thought he was spraying kids as he's walking off because the angle that one of the refs was at, you couldn't really see it. You couldn't see his path to the door. So if you tell a kid who just intentionally overshot a player to get off the field, and then several seconds later when he's out of frame walking to the door, you hear it would be feasible to think that he's just going on a last second rampage as he's getting out of there. Okay, I'll give you that. But one of the refs actually saw they were shooting the wall and told him that they didn't appreciate that because it could damage the lights. So what about all the other kids shooting walls intentionally and unintentionally? Are you going to enforce that rule also? Or is it just that you just don't like him doing that and you just wanted to have some sort of professional excuse? Okay, that's fine. If that's the route you want to go, that's the route you want to go. Look, I get sick and tired of before matches when kids just start shooting plastic bottles for no reason. I'll tell them to stop because it's annoying. And if they keep doing it, I'll just pull them from the field. But I'm honest that I don't bring up insurance or damage. Like, hey, stop that because it's pissing me off, or I'm going to pull you from the field because you're annoying me personally. Honesty is the best policy, kids. Where else are we going here? There was several. What I found interesting is that for whatever infractions my buddies or what were doing, or that even the few that I might have been doing, players around us standing in front of refs were doing the same or worse things, and those refs were letting them go. But those players weren't wearing dye masks. They were wearing multicams, a little face pro, and the whole thing. So, you telling me that if I'm a milsim player, if I'm one of your regulars, I can get away with whatever I want? Because that was the perception that I took away from that. Was what I took away from that. Was if you're wearing a dye mask and Speed QB gear at Gamepod, they're going to watch you a lot harder because they don't like the way you look. I guarantee it. Little men's warehouse joke for you NorCal kids. But if you're a milsimmer, you can do whatever you want. What? It's stupid. Dude, what is the grenade rule at Gamepod? Because these dudes were Hail Mary throwing these things. They were casting them over. They were going clearly over the height. They were going higher than buildings just to get these things. And these weren't Thunderbees. These were, what are the blue metal ones? Everyone knows the ones I'm talking, like the heavier ones. They were just boom. And they were sailing higher than the tops of the highest buildings and going easily 25, 30 yards. Is that okay? Because that's not okay at Ministry. We actually have a video that I made that demonstrates authorized and unauthorized grenade throwing techniques. And every once in a while, I'll remind kids of it in the safety briefing, and I'll even pop it on the Instagram. I'll post it as a story on the Instagram, a link to that video. Whatever. Madness. The whole thing was just madness. Dude, the building layout was just bad. They had buildings. I'll end up posting some of this footage. Me, Dev, and Charles went into a corner-fed room, and it was maybe like a 20 by 20, about the size of like a master bedroom. It had one corner-fed door, and then that was it. Didn't have any windows. It didn't have any other doors. It was just there. Why is it that? Why? What? When I go to a field, I want to know that that field's layout has purpose and design behind it. Not that it's just there to exist to take up space. Whenever Ethan redesigns the field layout, he obsesses over it. He looks at trends that players are doing. He looks at where certain players getting choked out, and he will add buildings to go with the overall flow of the field. He doesn't just go, oh, here's some empty space. Here's some more space. There's intelligence behind most field layouts. There didn't seem to be any intelligence behind a Gamepod. I almost said CQB City. It's not true. I love CQB City. Another big problem that I had, and that I think that the reason that the field has so many problems in general, is they have like 100, 200 foot alleys. I believe, and this is, I will throw Gamepod a bone on this. A lot of their alleys, like their grid setup, basically, I'm just gonna call them alleyways. They're about 25. I'm looking at my room to guesstimate. They're about 25, 50 feet across. Maybe it was dark, so I'm probably wrong on the dimensions. But it was easily, they had 100 and 200 yard straight shots with like 25 yards or so of open space. Maybe like 15. Maybe somewhere between like 15 to 30 yards of open space. So imagine several alleys that were about 100 to 250 yards, or excuse me, 100 and 250 feet by about 25 to 40 yards wide. Now, I say 100 and 200 feet because I just measured the Airsoft Ministry, so that's what I'm using as a reference point. But it had long shots, like really long hallways for really long engagements. But the max BB weight was 25. You could only use .25s at that field. You couldn't go any higher. If you're a field that has a max BB weight of .25, like CQB City, last time I checked, you could only use .25s. Last time I checked, I could be wrong. Let's say you want to have .25s be your heaviest weight. Okay, that's fine. If you're a tight field, if the longest engagement is no more than, let's say 15 yards. Let's say 15 yards is the longest common average engagement you'll have in a match. Yeah, .25s are okay because you don't have to stretch it out over a long distance. So you could kind of get away with that if you have like a Tac City or like an N1 style field where it's still, it has some space to it, but there's close engagements. You can get away with that. Most good players aren't trying to go like from one field to the other for engagements. That's usually you close the distance, get close, and do your thing. So I thought that was just chaos. Just everything was just bad. Staging area was really messy. It wasn't supervised. Kids were taking their safety gear off. There were very rarely was there a ref posted supervising the overall field. Usually, when players would come off the field and go on break, the refs would go on a quick break too, and they'd all hang out in the little, like their little check-in area, and they'd all just hang out there. No one was posted at the podium watching kids, making sure they weren't dry firing, because kids were dry firing all over the place. Yeah, they'd catch one or two of them, maybe, but considering I just saw 5 to 6 people doing it, you only caught 1 or 2, and it's your job. It is your job. You are getting paid a fee. You are getting a wage. Someone is giving you money to perform the duties and functions that involve maintaining not only rule enforcement, but safety on a business, and you're failing it, you should be fired. You're not doing your job. I'm telling you right now. It was madness. There's no reason. Gamepod should be the greatest field in Northern California. It should be the best. It should be the best field north of LA. Gamepod, only like competitors for like the GOAT of fields should be like your N1s, your Tac Cities, maybe like your SS Airsofts in like Georgia. It should be either your only good, the only people that should give you a run for your money for the GOAT field, the greatest of all time fields, should be fields that are like 8 hours away in other time zones or in other states. There's no excuse for Gamepod not being the best field in Northern California or in California overall. They have everything you could need. They have a giant, the biggest field I have ever been. That is the biggest indoor field I've ever been to. It's about the size of a Costco, maybe bigger, or they don't have a Home Depot. 2 Home Depots, 1,000 Home Depots. It's huge. It is a giant field. They have EVIC backing, so they're on the map. They've got the big boy backing. They've got a good location because there's a lot of people in the Bay Area. Like a lot of people in the Bay Area. They have everything. They have all the tools needed. They have everything in front of them. They have all the resources they need to be the greatest field, if not in Northern California, to include the Bay Area, than in California in general. Because it's huge. It's ginormous. But their staff sucks. Their refs are bad. I am assuming that they have good refs that are level-headed, that don't have any ego issues. Maybe they were just off that day. I don't know. But the refs that I saw and some of the staff members that I saw at that field, just they weren't into it. Like it was a job. It was the attitude that I got from them just by observing their interactions with others. It looked like being there was a chore for them. It didn't look like being there was fun. When I work the ministry, I go because it's fun. Guess what? If I don't want to go to the ministry, I will text Ethan and say, hey man, I'm not going to make it today. I'll give him a few days heads up. Like, you know what? My head ain't there. I ain't going to go. I don't want that to be an experience. If I'm on the field and I'm having a bad time, I'll leave. Because I know that my attitude will be contagious. Negativity is contagious. It is a disease that will spread. It is airborne. Their refs didn't look like they wanted to be there. They had one young ref who just, looking at his body movements, he seemed really unsure and not very confident about himself. But he looked very young, very skinny. He just didn't seem like he was a player. Like, he seemed like a new hire. If that's not on him, that could just be his mannerisms. Also keep in mind, what is involved in referee certification for airsoft? Doesn't exist. There's no training program for refs. Name me a field that has an official training course or a curriculum where they train people before they hit the field. Or they just go, hey, you're hired, you start tomorrow. Put this shirt on, figure it out. Am I crazy? Am I crazy? Of course I'm crazy. Boop, 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 boop. So I left that review. This is another interesting point. This is just a little complaint on my part. So I bought my ticket online and messaged them on Facebook on the 5th of August at 2:06 p.m. And I said I ordered tickets for my friend and I for the Saturday event on the EVIC website. Should I print that out and bring it with me? I didn't get any check-in information. I didn't get that. I just bought my tickets and that was it. So I asked them, hey, what do I do? Didn't get a single response. Okay, cool. This afternoon, again, today's the 12th of August, at 1:49 p.m., the day after I leave that review, they hit me up. They say, hello, would this be the James Shahan of Airsoft Ministry? It's not hard to figure out who I am. I was like, how'd they figure that out if your name's Jimmy Warsong on Facebook? I was in the Bay Area, I promote the field I was on the Bay Area Airsoft Facebook group, and I used to post stuff in there about the Airsoft Ministry, so that's probably where they figured that out. I said, the one and only, as a professional courtesy and in response to your unbiased review, we will be issuing a refund for your purchase of tickets to the Battle of Surovich event. If you think I'm lying, there it is. My response to that, no, keep the money. I know there's got to be staff members who are incredible who probably weren't working, and I want that money. I want that money to go to them. I want that money to go to the field to pay them. I also assume there's kids that adore that field, and I want my money to stay at that field to help keep it open. When I told my friends I was going to the field meaning in reference to Gamepod, when I told my friends I was going to Gamepod, I didn't have a single person say a single good thing about the field. It was all negative, so I wanted to give it a shot for myself. You've got some internal staff issues that need to be addressed because the conduct of some of your refs was appalling. Hang on. Whoop. Conduct of some of your refs was appalling. I lost my place. Oh boy. And it was the same refs that I was warned about. I assume it's hard to find good staff. I get that. But I know a lot of these edgy kids, and they act like they act out of response to being disrespected. Everything can be improved at your field, and you should be dominating the market, but I didn't really see anyone with a passion and love for being there. I saw guys with ego issues. God bless all of you guys, and I hope you will overcome your issues, but I'm going to stay away from a while. Gamepod, get better. This is what pisses me off about Gamepod. There is no way that I'm the first one that's had this opinion. If you YouTube search Gamepod right now, if you go to Wag Entertainment, his Instagram, you see what I'm talking about with their refs. Here's the sign of a bad ref. If a player shoots 5 players, none of those 5 call it, and he just goes hard on that trigger and just starts spraying all 5 of that players, and the ref comes and curses out that one player and doesn't address anything else, you have a bad ref. Because that player is responding to 5 players who were cheating. It's road rage. Granted, would that be a wrong way to respond to that game? Yeah. If you're shooting guys and they're not calling it and you just go hard and freak out on them, look, that's not the right response either. But it's also the ref's responsibility to stay unbiased, to root cause analysis every issue that happens on that field and go, okay, why did this happen? Instead of just yelling and swearing, get the F off the field right now. Wait, what? You're a bad ref. Come at me. I'm ready to hear someone's response. Ref staff makes or breaks a field. Ref staff and rules. That's it. It makes or breaks a field. I'm not going back to Gamepod anytime soon. They have announced that the Battle Arena tournament will be next April in Gamepod, and I was thinking about going, but if it's going to be refed by Gamepod refs, I'm not going, which is sad because I really wanted to compete in the Battle Arena tournament. But if it's staffed by Gamepodders, I'm cool, bro. I'll just keep going to CQB City and doing my thing, and I'll just keep going to SoCal and keep going to my other fields that I love. And I'm just going to stay away from Gamepod until they get better. Use Social media is a good and a bad thing. If you want to know about a field, type it up in YouTube and just hit search. Search for Airsoft Ministry. Try and find me like a bunch of cheaters or a bunch of like mag dumpers or kids doing all this edgy stuff at Ministry. It doesn't really exist because we don't treat people with disrespect. Because we don't give kids a reason. There's a reason why a lot of these people that I know go to Gamepod to get kicked out, and they would never think about acting that way at the Airsoft Ministry. It's because we treat them with respect. I will talk to a 12-year-old breaking a rule in the same respect that I would talk to a 30-year-old. I don't see them any different. A player is a player. That's it. You take every person on a case-by-case basis, and you treat them with respect until, they start attacking you, I guess, physically. When did this become such a human issue? This is just sociological stuff here. Just treat others with respect, and your field won't have problems. Whereas there going to be the occasional one or two kids that's just going to be some snotty kid that just wants to hurt people. Yeah, that's going to happen. But if you're smart enough to be able to differentiate between those kids and the dude that's just kind of road raging because your ref called him an F-bag, what are we doing? So there's that. I'm not going to Gamepod again anytime soon. I hope they get better. I hope they fire some of their current ref staff and hire kids that love the sport and that have a passion for being there and don't attribute speedsofters as cheaters, because that's a cancer in this game too. So that is that. I have no idea how long this video... Is there like a counter for this video? Nope, but I bet this bad boy is long as heck. So, love you guys.